Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about solving absolute value equations. And these are really easy to solve. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. Let's write down the first example. And then I will explain how to do this. So we want to solve the equation, the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 2. All right? And what we have to do is that when we think of the absolute value, we want to set what it's equal to, both positive and negative, because the absolute value of any quantity is always going to be positive. So if there's a positive quantity that you are taking, it's going to be positive, right? And then if you're taking the absolute value of a negative quantity, it's also going to be positive, because the absolute value measures the distance from zero, and the distance is always measured as a positive quantity. Okay? So we have to kind of keep that in mind. And when we have an absolute value equation that's presented to us, we want to write both equations, x plus 3 equals 2, and x plus 3 equals negative 2. All right? So you have to write two separate equations, and you have to solve them independently for x, okay? So when we do that, all right, we want to solve for x, so what we do is we subtract 3 from both sides, because you want to move the 3 over to isolate the x. In order to do that, you do its opposite operation. Think of an equation as a scale. So if you want to move 3 over the equal sign, or any kind of quantity, you would subtract it. And you notice that we have a plus 3, so the opposite operation is negative 3. And then these would cancel. Okay, and then you're just left with x equals, and then 2 minus 3 is minus 1. So that's one of the solutions. And then for the other equation, we do the same thing. Subtract 3. These 3's cancel. And then you're just left with x equals minus 5. All right? And if you plug in the answers, you'll see that they work. Okay? If you do the absolute value of negative 1 plus 3 equals 2. Okay, negative 1 plus 3 is 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. So that works. And then you can also check the other one by plugging in negative 5 plus 3 equals 2. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. Then the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So you know both of these solutions will be correct. All right? So let's do another example. All right? So we have the absolute value of 4x minus 1 equals 6. So we're going to write two equations, okay? 4x minus 1 equals 6, and 4x minus 1 equals minus 6. So again, we want to solve x. We need to isolate x. So we're going to add 1 to this side. The 1's will cancel. Then you're left with, then you're left with 4x equals 7. Now remember, this reads 4 times x, so the opposite of multiplication is division, and we divide by the coefficient of 4 because we want the 4's to cancel, and then you're just left with x equals 7 over 4. That's one of the solutions. And then we just repeat the process for the other equation. Again, we're going to add 1 to both sides. So then you're just left with 4x equals minus 6 plus 1 is minus 5. Okay? Remember, the 1's cancel, so you're left with 4x equals minus 5. And then we divide both sides by 4. And we know that the 4's cancel. And then your other answer is 4x equals minus 5 over 4. Okay, and if you plug both of these in, they will equal to 6. All right, so we want to set two equations, one for 6, one for the positive value that it's equal to, and one to its opposite value that it's equal to. So 4x minus 1 equals 6, and 4x minus 1 equals negative 6. And you solve both equations independently, and you'll have two solutions that will work for this particular example. Okay, so another example, all right. Solve absolute value of x over 5 equals 10. So what we want to do is we want to set two equations, one that equals positive 10 and the other that equals negative 10. And now we want to solve the equation for x. Remember, x divided by 5, the opposite of division is multiplication, and we multiply by whatever this denominator is in the fraction. And we do that to both sides. And why do we want to do that? Is because we want the 5s to cancel. And then you're just left with x equals 50. And again, that would be one answer. And then here we do the same thing. We multiply both sides by 5. And then you're going to get x equals minus 50. And that would be the other solution for this particular equation. Okay. Let's do another example. The absolute value of 2x plus 7 divided by 3 equals 7. Okay, so we're going to write two equations. And when we write the two other equations, we write them without the absolute value sign, because we're taking into account that one is positive and one is negative. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. And then we both solve for x. So we're going to do them independently. We're going to do the first one. This is 2x plus 3 divided by 7. The opposite of divide is division is multiply. And we multiply both sides by the denominator so that the denominators cancel. But what you do to one side, you do to the other. So now you're just left with 2x plus 7 equals 21. And now we go ahead and subtract 7 on both sides. And then you just have 2x equals 14. Divide by 2. And then you just have x equals 7. And that's one of the solutions. All right? And then, of course, repeat the same process. We multiply 3 on both sides. 3's will cancel. Then you're just left with 2x plus 7 equals minus 21. Okay, and then if you want to move the 7 over, we go ahead and subtract. Okay, so the 7's cancel, and you're just left with 2x equals minus 28. And then now to cancel out the 2, we do its opposite. We divide by 2. 2 cancel, and then you're just left with x equals minus 14. And that would be your answer for the other value. All right. So that is how you solve absolute value equations. Okay. I'm going to do one more example with you. I might do actually two more. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this example. X plus 2 is 14 equals 4. So our main goal here is to solve for x. Okay. Now before we write our two equations down, let's go ahead and move the 14 over, okay? And we want to do this because we want to cancel that out. We want to isolate the terms inside the absolute value sign. So 4 minus 14 is going to be minus 10. Okay? And now let's see what happens. Now, there's something that I'm hoping that you would catch. Notice that the equation, the absolute value of x plus 2 equals minus 10. The absolute value of anything is always going to be positive, so it will never yield a negative solution. Okay? So, there would not be any need to write two separate equations because no matter what goes in for x, okay, should not yield negative 10. Okay? Because when I take the absolute value of any negative value for x, it's going to turn into a positive, and a positive does not equal a negative number. Okay, so when this happens, the answer is going to be there is no solution. Okay, this is very important. No solution. All right, so sometimes you'll get a situation where if it equals a negative number, well, if I take the absolute value of something on the left side, okay, it should not equal a negative number. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, and our last example, we have this. Okay, so we want to set the expression inside the absolute value symbol on the left side of the equation. Okay, and we want to do that. Okay, so x plus 1 equals 6x minus 4, and then the other equation is going to be x plus 1 equals minus 6x minus 4. Okay, and we want to keep the 6x minus 4 in parentheses so that we can distribute the negative. We have to distribute the negative because if I just write minus 6x minus 4, then I'm not accounting for the distribution of that negative sign to the negative 4, and we don't want to do that. So we want to make sure that it's written just like this. All right, and we're going to start solving for x. For the left equation. So let's do that. Okay, and subtract 1 on both sides. These ones will cancel. You're just left with x equals 6x, and then minus 5. Okay, and then of course we can go ahead and subtract 6x. No way, this x's cancel. X minus 6x is minus 5x. That's going to equal to minus 5. Then we divide both sides by minus 5. And then you're left with x equals 1. Okay? So here we do the same thing. We're going to distribute. Okay, we're going to distribute the minus here and here. So what we have is we have x plus 1 equals a minus times a 6x is a minus 6x. A minus times a minus 4 is a positive 4. So now we factored in that distribution of the negative sign. Now we can go ahead and solve for x. So subtract 1 on both sides. You're going to have x equals, again, these 1's cancel, remember that. Minus 6x. 4 minus 1 is 3. All right, and then I'm going to add 6x to both sides. And then that's going to give me 7x equals, again, these cancel. And you're just left with 3. Then we divide both sides by 7. And we get x equals 3 over 7. So there you have it, solving basic absolute value equations. I hope that these examples helped you understand the concept, and I'm looking forward to having you watch my next video. Thank you so much.